In my last video, I talked about our 3 years in Venice when we were getting our documents in order to go back to France to get into the house we bought there. Well, it took us a long time to get all our papers in order that the French required. Um, we could have stayed in Italy, but I felt that we had a commitment to that house that we had bought. We were never going to be able to sell it in the state it was in. It really needed work. And I needed a studio and I needed nature. Um, and I had all of those books. I had a library. So although we were becoming more and more attached to Italy and to Venice, we did the right thing and we flew out from Venice and changed planes in Paris, flew to Houston, uh, took a beat up cab to the consulate, got all our papers stamped. There was no problem with it whatsoever. They just need to have everything in order. We flew back to Venice. We packed everything up and we went to France, to our house. All of our furniture and everything from the apartment showed up on time, very responsibly, with somebody who took good care of them and knew how to come through the border. I'm not sure how he did it, but then we were in the house in France. 22 years later, we were in an emergency and we had to sell the house. But in the meantime, that house had become a destination. It had become a silk purse. We had done a huge amount of work on it. And in the process, we changed. We became different people than we would have been if we'd stayed in the States or even if we'd stayed in Italy. And we had help. We had help from um, people in the village and people in the villages around. There was somebody who had a hardware store in Salins-les-Bains who had a brother who did a wonderful job on replacing the roof. And that house, he changed the profile of it so that it became a house of what they call standing or standing. And we lived with that for 10 years. We did get to enjoy it. And in any case, we wouldn't have been able to build up in the attic if we hadn't replaced that roof because it leaked. Um, so, anyway, what I'm thinking about now, we've been gone from there for 10 years. Um, I was 75 years old at the time, and I realize now I still had a lot to learn. As a matter of fact, I'm still learning. Um, but I miss things about France. I probably always will. And I don't think we're going to go back there. Um, of course, the first thing you think of is the food and wine, but there was a sense of community in that little village. We got to know people, we made friends. The nature was gorgeous. The weather was considered frigid by people in the south of France, um, but we became very attached to it. It snowed, it rained a lot, things grew prodigiously. We um, we really did become attached to the details of living in that environment. And we became integrated into the French system. We had really good health care. We had a really good doctor. We had really good food and food shopping and access for anything we wanted. I learned all kinds of things about tools and construction and the names, the French names of all the parts of the house and how they worked. Um, and working with my hands every day like that was really good for me, I'm convinced. And yes, I did paint every day. Um, I listened to music a lot. I worked out physically because we had not just a library, I had a painting studio, I had a gym with equipment in it, free weights and machines and so on. Um, so that it was a self contained um, place where we could have every aspect of us addressed. Whatever we needed, at least I felt that. Now, obviously, the kids were growing up and they wanted to get out into the world, and they did. Um, and Cynthia wanted some things that were not available there. She wanted Pilates, she wanted yoga, um, and those didn't come until later. Um, but I think what we came away with was what it feels like to live with roots. It, that sense of community, the sense of people are looking out for you and you look out for them, and you have the village fetes where you meet everybody, and it, it was a completely different life. And I think our kids miss that sense of community, which is very hard to find in the United States. There, at least in Texas. Um, so I really feel for them. We're here in Mexico now, where it's not so difficult as it is in the United States. I did read about someone from the Houston of from the Dallas area, I think, who lived in Houston, who lived in Austin, who lived around Texas, and eventually picked up and moved to Maine, where he found a real sense of community. People came and introduced themselves to him from the first day, just like they did with us in France. People showed up at our door and said, I'm so and so. I want to welcome you to the village. If you need anything, come knock on my door. Um, well, Maine has a French Canadian influence, and my guess is they have that same sense of community up there, very different from Texas. And um, I myself could not live in Texas. I was born there and grew up there, but it's just not for me. Um, now, um, the the lesson that I learned was I need to be creative every day in some way. And if I can't paint, which right now I can't because it's kind of expensive, we're living pretty close to the bone. Um, I can write. I can find ways to create, and I think that it's essential for all of us to do it the way we can do it. And that's one thing that was well established and well rooted in me just from doing it for over 20 years straight. And I had always painted from the time I was 20 years old and went to art school in Austin and so on. But it was catch as catch can for many years, coming up with the money, coming up with uh, the time, with a place to do it, and so on. I had periods when I did it very intensely, and other times I just couldn't manage to get it done. Um, but there, I don't think I had one day without painting. Um, and I read a lot. I had accumulated quite a library, and I um, I also meditated. I also worked out physically. We spent time outside in the garden, and um, it was a very balanced way of life, spiritually speaking, creatively speaking. I really think that is so important for people. I wish that on everybody. I wish it for you, for anyone, to be able to have beauty in your life, natural beauty, beauty you create, um, beauty created by the people around you, a sense of community. Um, Believe me, that is a very good way to live.